list. Am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Spending time all alone, sending my songs through the phone, dreaming of a better home, while focused on trying to hone this craft, witchcraft. I hope the brujas let this last.
I don't know if the earth is painted blue.
That was the great sounds of Watson with Outside on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, with my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City Made, EZ Bluez is in the building. Easy. Who do we have with us today on Behind the Brand?
Well, before we even get into that, one of the things that I love about the scene that is New Haven, the scene that is absolutely incredible. We've had our good brother Mark Lyon on the show a bunch of different times, and I'm one of those people that when Mark Lyon says something as per music, I automatically go and check it out. So one day Mark and I are kind of just hanging out, and he goes, "Yo, I booked this ridiculous band. You really need to check them out. You really need to, invest your time into paying attention to them." And I'm like, all right, cool. What's the name? He's like, Semperfora. I was like, oh, interesting, because I'm actually playing with them this Wednesday. And that was the first time, like, going into a show, being excited to see a band that I've never heard of before, just because I know how much of an incredible musician Mark Lyon is. And when he's excited about a project, you need to pay attention. That being said, I would like to welcome to the Behind the Brand audience, one of, honestly, I think the best mind when it comes to musical arrangements I have seen in a very, very long time. Someone who really likes to push the envelope of, as you can tell by the picture, of the norm, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I want to welcome Lydia. How have you been? What's new and exciting? Welcome to Behind the Brand.
Hello, thanks for having me on the show. It's going okay. How are you?
I see, like, not even a normal intro, right? No, we're doing well.
No, I had no warning that was coming.
Of course, I never give any type of warning. It's the best way to go about it. No, but it's well, that's really the truest point of it is, and that's what I love about this show. We really bring that the real moments in there, and being someone who is a fan of music like I am, being someone who is a fan of composition as I am, being someone who's a fan of the performance aspect as I am. I mean, watching your bass player bounce around on stage with these huge combat boots, but move so effortlessly. It's an incredible thing to see. It's such an amazing experience. Also, I mean, your harmony textures are so incredible. And the fact that you can pull it all off live. Look, anyone that has good musical talent can go into a studio and over texture things until everything sounds, absolutely studio incredible. But the fact that you can pull this stuff off live, I mean, it's really a testament on yourself. I mean, I've had musicians come up to me and say at one point, you were like helping host an open mic, and this guy, Mike Everyday, was like, there's a first person who, was able to actually play along with what I was playing right from jump.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, at the old Smitty's in Black Rock, which is not there anymore, but we were, myself and Chris Q, his project is called Hi-Fi Radio, and the two of us hosted their open mic night while that was going on. And yeah, it's like we would sort of be the house band and jump in on whatever anyone wanted to come up and play with us. And it's a shame more people didn't know about it, but we're I'm like 3 years late plugging that open mic, so.
But see, that's the incredible thing, and that's the real aspect of what live music is.
You mentioned how great the my live band is. That's the thing that I have the least, I can take least credit for, because that's all on how wonderful the Connecticut music scene is that I can find all these people who can come in and make sense of my charts and make it happen. So
now, for the average listener at home, when you say charts, you know, obviously I know what you're talking about, and Prestige has a clue what you're talking about. But
well,
Joe,
sometimes it's traditional sheet music. Sometimes I'm just writing out like musical scores, like you might see for an orchestra, but for my rock band. But it depends really what the musicians tell me that they need in order to translate what's in my head into their instrument. Because I'm pretty, like you mentioned that I'm kind of a arranger, or that I do maybe more different arrangements in my music than a lot of people in today's musical environment. And so that's one of the challenges I have, is like I have these ideas in my head. How do I get other people to bring them to life? And this has been a challenge since I started writing music in high school. My very first high school band, I had these ideas in my head. I wrote down some chords. I was like, here, guitar player, play these chords. And it didn't really sound like I had imagined. It's like, no, let's try more like this. And I would play it. And then it got to the point where now what I do is I play all the instruments on the album. Because they're just like, I'm very particular about the kind of sound that I want, the way that I want each part played. And then that's what I can bring to the rest of the band. And that's kind of my process now.
It's really interesting because a lot of people who are music historians will say, know that did his first record, where he recorded every single instrument and he went in there and knocked it out. Now, I think he did it more for the affordability aspect of it, because, he only had a certain amount of money and a certain amount of time to get things done. But you're doing it for...
that's definitely a factor for me too. I mean...
Well, I mean...
Recording, I'll bring up, so I released an album in December. It's called Sister Administrator. It's 10 songs. And a couple of those songs I wrote 9-10 years ago.
Right.
But I wasn't recording 9 or 10 years ago because I didn't know how to do it myself. And I didn't have the money for studio time.
Right.
So now it's a lot easier to record things because I just have acquired all the studio equipment somehow in my apartment over the years. Plus knowledge from all the musicians I've had the opportunity to work with, just learning how to make stuff sound good. So,
right.
Budget is definitely a factor.
Oh, what do you mean? You mean you don't automatically write a song and then just walk into a recording studio and get it done? Isn't that the dream? Isn't that the musician's dream?
Right, everyone's parents rich? No.
Right. Isn't everyone's parents rich? But no, that's a very real statement. And, again, I love when musicians come on here and talk about the realities of it, because, moving forward, and especially as we evolve into this next evolution of what the music industry is going to be, where it does seem like it's a lot more on the artist's hands. It's a lot more do it yourself type of aspect. And I mean, really, that's 100% what you're talking about. You found out that there was no way that you could translate the musical conversation you were having with yourself with somebody else's point of view playing that instrument. So you went in and you have this musical conversation with yourself, and now you've taken it to that next step where you're now recording it yourself, so you're getting the perfect sound exactly how it plays out in your head. And that right there, I mean, if that's not a musician's dream, I don't know what is. I really think it's absolutely incredible to have that much control over your art in an industry where we're making 0.001 cent on every stream. I'm not going to put the company name out there, but on every stream that you see. But you should definitely support us on Bandcamp. Shameless plug. But that's really, it's incredible to hear, and it's incredible to know. I've said it before on the show, growing up being a little different of a kid that I was all of my friends were really just what I heard on the radio. And now to say that, you know, my friends are actually, you know, in my playlists, and these are people that I have conversations with. This is people that I have the honor to say, oh, well, by the way, I just put my studio together. If you ever want to just come by and hang out, and if something happens from there, it's gorgeous. And if not, it's just people hanging out and having conversations. I mean, that really is, you know, the pinnacle of making it, at least in my mind. And I think that's incredible. Your story is incredible in that aspect.
Well, thank you. I will say, though, it's probably not that unique anymore. But one of the great things about the world of music today is that it is possible for anyone to just download the software and make a full album just on their computer, with very low expenses. The tools are out there. It's very democratizing for the music world right now, is that anyone can do it just on their own. Maybe the one thing that's different about my approach is that I am playing live bass, guitar, piano, drums, saxes, trumpets, accordions. And on this last album, I played every single single note on a live instrument. And I don't, yeah. So it's kind of, me and Sufjan Stevens are kind of that's the category that right. I've ended up in.
Well, and that's amazing, because I think one of the coolest things growing up, and I kind of grew up in the grunge era, and just before you saw like new metal start to hit and different things like that, and hip hop was obviously a big part of that. But what I loved about the Rage Against the Machine records is it said, every sound you hear on this record, we can duplicate live and was done on a live instrument. And you're really, now obviously Rage Against the Machine and your sound is not the same sound, but it's the same type of philosophy, you know, and it's a beautiful philosophy to have. That's right. I compared you to Rage Against the Machine. Smile there.
I'm sure. It's first for everything.
Now,
I'll say if you go into Semaphore expecting to hear Rage Against the Machine, though, you might be a little disappointed.
Or massively happy.
Yeah,
You never know. I mean, art is subjective.
Absolutely.
Now, you had stated that you just released a new record, and you're getting some incredible acclaim for this record. First of all, it is a phenomenal record. I've listened to it. I actually, your record has made me download the Bandcamp app that I can now use. And for people who don't know, there is an app from Bandcamp where you can use it like you would use a normal streaming service, or a mainstream streaming service. That's what I'm going to say, a mainstream streaming. I'm trying to be better with my words. You know,
and I've heard Bandcamp is actually working on developing their own streaming, like something that works more like a streaming platform, where you're able to browse through different artists more freely. But I did exclusively put my album on Bandcamp for about the first month. It is available pretty much everywhere you would normally find music on the internet now.
Nice.
But I wanted to put it on Bandcamp first because they are the platform that supports independent artists like no other.
Exactly. And it's incredible to see too, because, you know, what also I respect the heck out of your hustle, and the whole thing is, unlike other artists, and even myself, because I'm a lot more of a attention seeker than most people. You know, you released the record and you just were like, hey, I'm going to tell some really interesting people that this record is out, and then I'm just going to put it out there into the universe, and this is what it's going to be. Where you have other people, you know, who are just like, hey, by the way, guess what's coming out tomorrow? Hey, by the way, guess what's going out tomorrow? So, you know, you have this relaxed marketing strategy, but you have the talent and the composition that you can do that. And I think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so two things about that. I did not do much advanced promo for this album. And one reason is, if I just promote something and there's no product there, like, what am I sending people to, right? I want to have an established base of music available for people to hear. If I'm promoting, hey, there's going to be stuff in the future, well, what's there right now? And there is a first album that's up there that I put out in 2017. I learned a lot about recording between 2017 and today. So I listened to that first album. I mean, I still like the music, but it's not the same level of quality as the new stuff. So I didn't want to send people to that and tell them that was what to expect for the new product. So I didn't do much advanced promo because of that. And also, like, I think the music, I really believe in these songs. I think that they, as much as it is possible to stand on their own in today's music scene, I think they do. It's obviously, it's hard to get anywhere with music without doing some promotions. I mean, some of my favorite acts were exclusively studio acts in the 70s, like Steely Dan and XTC and Kate Bush. The three of them, those acts like barely toured at all for huge portions of their career and were strictly studio acts. And they didn't do their own promo. They had huge record labels doing promotion for them. So that's like the world I wish I lived in, but I'm going to try to build it for myself today.
Well, and that's a huge part of it because, you know, as say we had Vic Steffens on here last week or the week, last week, and he has this incredible philosophy. You know, anyone can make a great record. You know, and you know, you should always go out there and push to make a great record. But there's a difference between making a great record and making sure people are listening to it. And that's where the marketing aspect really does come into play. And it's a whole nother like vicious monster of just like shaking hands, kissing babies, you know, cutting checks that you don't even know if you're ever going to see it back, you know, or, you know, cutting the check and knowing for a fact you're never going to see it come back, at least until live shows happen again. You know, and that's the other thing that I really love about what you do is you are the first band that I've seen pull up with their own clothing rack, you know, and it's so awesome to see where you kind of have a feeling that you're going into a thrift shop just by hanging out by your merch table.
That was absolutely the goal with that.
Well, it hit.
Yeah, well, I screen print all of our own shirts. All of our merch is very DIY. So I screen print the shirts, which I get at a thrift store. They're secondhand shirts because clothing is the largest growing sector of waste in the environment. So recycled is always better. I taught myself to knit last year. So I've got a bunch of hats now that are going to have the Semaphore logo on them when live shows happen. It'll be Semaphore hats. So yeah, and my goal is to have the weirdest merch display in Connecticut, and I think I'm halfway there.
Oh, you're definitely halfway there. And now this is one of the things that I definitely wanted to talk about as well, because you know, and I'm trying to formulate the words correctly here because some people are going to take this the wrong way. And I mean, again, once the words are out there, it's subjective. But there are acts that depend upon a gimmick. And then there are just some acts that are so musically on point that you have the ability to be kind of different or, you know, zany.
On point, Dustin. We're on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made Easy Blues. We have Lydia on Behind the Brand. Easy, continue.
So what I was saying is, you know, you guys, if anyone has come and seen you guys live, they know of these hats that you guys wear. And I would like to say I am honored and privileged now that it seems whenever I show up to one of your live shows, I get the honor of wearing the penguin hat, which I do. Which I do. Like, I hope you understand, like, how much I do look at that as an honor. Like, I feel it really is cool to me. I know I'm like, whatever. I'm weird. I'm different. It is what it is. But you know, what made you guys jump to like, hey, we're doing this really interesting and complex music. We're gonna need something to deal with the extra person in the bar.
I know
like,
what you're going.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So all right. The last band I had that played my original music. So I moved to Connecticut in 2013. And before that, I was living in Buffalo. And in Buffalo, I had a band called The Rough, which was playing my original music. And actually, some of the same songs we do as Semaphora started as songs with that band. And that was only a trio. We had me, I played keyboards and bass. I did the bass parts on the left hand of the keyboard. We had a guitarist and we had a drummer. And all three of us were horribly shy introverts. And we just got on stage and we just kind of stood there and did our thing. And I felt like a lot of the time, like, people liked what they were hearing, but they were in bars, they were imbibing alcohol, and they would have liked anything that came up there. And the whole concept of Semaphora. So Semaphora, the name, is just made by sticking an A at the end of the word semaphore, which is what you call it when you stand on a ship and wave flags back and forth to signal each other. So I felt sometimes when I was on stage singing to a crowd of indifferent people that I was like watching for that one person at the back who really cared what they were listening to and trying to wave a flag saying like, hey, I'm weird too. You should check out what I'm doing. So when I formed another band, first of all, I got some extroverts in the mix to help, like when we're at the end of our set and I don't really want to talk to the crowd, I say like, go talk to the crowd. I'll break down the set. I'll break down the instruments. And then I'll take the break that I need before I go talk to people. And the other thing is, so you said the word gimmick, and you also said the name Vic Steffens, and it's on the record now that Vic Steffens does not like our hats.
Well, the funny thing is that's actually he does. He does. That's just his way. That's his actually way of paying tribute that he's seen you, and he really appreciates. He loves your music more than he loves your hats. I segued into that purposely, just so you know.
I see.
What is different logo, Dustin? It's a different language. We gotta understand.
Yes.
You do.
We'll
don't
get there.
Like something.
when it comes to Vic, and we've had the conversation of him hanging out, and I don't want to make this about Vic, but him hanging out with Sly for 1.5 years, and he's been on the scene and pounding the pavement 1.5 million different ways. When he notices something about a band and you become memorable to him, he starts to focus on that and see how he would package it. And it's funny because the first time that he'd actually saw you, him and I had a conversation. And I was like, yeah, no, they're different. He's like, or maybe they're not weird enough. Maybe meat suits need to happen, and that's kind of like how things evolve with him. So it really is 100% a compliment because what he's saying is your music is 10 times better than the hat aspect.
Okay, well, in that case, I completely agree. But the hats are just, they're just a fun, low investment way to get people's attention. And as far as I'm concerned, it kind of is a gimmick, but if what is underneath the gimmick is real, then why not? It's like a big influence on me and what I do is Frank Zappa. And he has an album called Does Humor Belong in Music? And clearly, if you listen to what he did in his career, his answer to that question is yes. And he was also very serious. He wrote about some very serious things. He wrote a rock opera about the AIDS epidemic and addressed all sorts of important issues in his day, which is something that I try to do in my music too. There's a few songs I've written about environmental conservation. And so I don't think that the gimmicks or the fun things have to, you don't have to be serious in your attitude to talk about serious things.
I 100% agree with you. I'm also a huge Zappa fan. And and when I say the word gimmick, I really mean it out of pure love. I mean, I go on with a stuffed penguin, and it becomes something that's bigger and transcends past the music at some points in time. But the reason why is I do feel that you need that, as Mary Poppins says, and Disney can come after Preston, it's okay. You need that spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. And you need that aspect. I find in life in general, if I can get someone to laugh for a second, then I can hit them with a truth that you can't really hit them with prior.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
So
bring up another artist who's influenced me a lot is Bob Marley. And he was discussing political issues and the situation in Jamaica in his time, but he was making everyone dance about it. Like his music is irresistible, and he used that to talk about what was important to him.
And it's very true. And I do feel as artists, not every artist, because look, I get it. Some people just want to dance. I mean, you have that. Was Vince Neil from Motley Crue said he never understood grunge music because, music for him, and he said it for him, was about the escape. You always had your problems. You always had your problems to go back to, but for him, it was about the escape. But like for someone like me, it makes me feel better when I know that other people feel some of that darkness that I feel as well. And to know that I'm not alone in that. That's one of the reasons why I was such a Trent Reznor fan, because he talked about topics that did go off inside my head, but because he talked about them too, and he was going to be okay, I knew that I could be okay as well. And it's, and again, that's me, I'm different.
No, that reminds me of I used to have this theory that there were two types of people in the world. There were Red Hot Chili Peppers fans and there were Incubus fans. And the people who are more in Incubus are the people who look for a reflection of darkness in the music. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers fans were looking for light.
Right. that is, you want to know something? That is an absolutely incredible, that is an incredible analogy. I really dig that, especially since my favorite Chili Peppers record is One Hot Minute, which is their darkest record.
Very telling.
But it's because of Dave Navarro. But no, it's incredible to hear, and I love. What made you go with Sister Administrator as a title?
Okay, so this is a collection of 10 songs where there's the overall theme, and you could call it a concept album. That would probably be appropriate. The idea is that technologies have transformed human society in so many ways. And you can sort of read a story into side B of the album where the machines have sort of taken over society. And then some apocalyptic event happens. I won't go too deep into that because that's not the question you asked. That's a story for a different day. But anyway, I've written these songs, and it wasn't just the 10 newest songs I wrote. I specifically picked out, here are 10 songs that fit this theme of technology impact on society. The title, Sister Administrator, is sort of a pun on system administrator, which is what you'd call a manager of a computer network. Sister being the title for a nun. And on the cover of the album, my sister, there's another connection. My sister Gina, who sings on much of the album, is dressed as a nun. And she's holding a dog, perhaps administering some sort of care or medicine to the dog. And she's the nun connection. It's because there are sort of religious themes on the album, but it's I use religious themes to talk about technology because I think it has occupied a place similar to religion.
And it's funny. Well, not necessarily. No, you want to know something? It made complete and total sense. And it's actually it's actually a theme that we're seeing a lot. You have the book that later became the Showtime show, American Gods, where they literally talk about.
Yeah, well, Janelle Monáe's Dirty Computer also. Like, I'm not the first person with this idea. So.
Well, no, and that's kind of like what I want to highlight here is, first of all, again, you've proven that, you mean you don't just wake up, have 10 songs, go into a studio and knock it out. The amount of work and thought process that you went through to assemble this concept record.
Oh yeah, it took 3 years.
And that's the key, is it goes above and beyond. A lot of people really feel it. I mean, Dire Straits had the song, Money for Nothing, that being a musician is one of the easiest things. You barely have to work. You don't do much, but the amount of planning just to give you, a little bit of a look behind the aspect, the amount of planning and hours just in the in the figuring out what songs are going to fit this narrative. Can you elaborate a little bit into that for the listener at home?
Well, that's sort of getting into like my specific writing process, and that's honestly the only writing process that I'm qualified to talk about. I don't really know how other people write their music. I just know how I've always done it. A lot of the time, so I'll just give you a picture. About a year before the album was released, it was when I finally finished writing all the words for the last song on the album. But it was for a song, so well, let's get specific. There's a song on the album called Broomsticks. It's the second to last track on the album, and I wrote the music, the instrumental part of that song in 2012. And I had that idea to write a song about Alfred Nobel, the guy that the Nobel Prizes are named after. He invented dynamite, then felt really terrible that it was being used as a weapon. He decided to donate his money to bettering humanity. And I thought, there's a song there. That's the sort of thing that I think, like, oh, I could write a song about that. Because I'll say, like, I don't always, like, I've written some songs that are, like, about myself and my own experiences, but I'm more interested in writing about just stories, things that I think are interesting or important. And that's personal to me, even though it's not literally about myself. So I had this idea, Broomsticks being like a letter off from boomsticks, which is what you might call dynamite. And I just had all these ideas going through my head, but I could never make the lyrics work for about 7 years. And once in a while I'd go back to it. And it's not like I listen to it all the time. It's just like, I've got this bank of unfinished song ideas. And once in a while I'll think like, hey, that one could work here. And when I was developing the album, I thought, well, okay, this is an album about technology. How about that song about the invention of dynamite? So I pulled it back out, but even like a year after I had recorded all the instruments for it, I still didn't have the words finished. And just, it took at least it was about 2 or 3 weeks of just every day going to my writing pad and like staring at, just brainstorming ideas related to the topic, trying to see what I could come up with and trying to assemble it into the melody that was already written and had been written for years, because that's just, I don't know, that's my process. Like I know what the song is, I know what it sounds like, I know what it's about, I just don't have the words for it yet. And just through sheer brute force and trial and error, eventually I found the right words that fit into those, that syllable scheme. And if you look at the words to Broomsticks, there are a ton of words. There's just a lot of words in my music. I write a little bit like musical theater in the way that my lyrics flow. but that one in particular, it took a very long time. There's a ton of words in it, and it's one of my favorite lyrics that I've come up with. And with that, I have to ask, what was the question?
You actually explained exactly what the question was
Right,
through there.
right.
It's the extra processes, because a lot of people, especially going through what happened in 2020, and a lot more people had time on their hands. So a lot of people were like, hey, I'm going to learn how to make sourdough, or hey, I'm going to finally follow my dream and, release the rock record that, I said I was going to release since I was 16. Oh, by the way, I've never learned how to play guitar, and all these different things that happen. So they think automatically, well, I've got this, and I can, I've got GarageBand because I have my, my Mac, so I'm good to go and everything's fine. I'm going to release a record. And as this stuff becomes more readily available, and you mentioned about it, you touched on it a little bit, well, anyone can do it. But as I say in everything, just because anyone can do it does not necessarily mean everyone should do it. Because there are some people, and if you're doing it for a passion and you're doing it just to release some of the stuff out there, that's cool. Please do that. But if you're going to do it and it's the first time you've ever done something and you've never played, you've never had any type of instruction, run it through some people first before you just put it out there in the world, because you can never take away, that first meeting again. You can never have another first time that someone's discovered something. You can never have that first time. That being said, you mentioned before that your first record was not a reflection of this second record.
Yeah, and like I'm still happy to have it out there. I'm still happy to have people listen to it. It's just like in the future, and I'll say I do have albums 3 and 4 planned out already, because that's just how my brain operates. Is I have the plans in place long before I've actually done the work of putting it all together. Once albums 3 and 4 are out, then album 1 will sort of be that curiosity of the like underground I don't know, like the Obama era Semaphora, that it's like, oh, this is what her music sounded like at the beginning. So
right. And I think that's extremely necessary, because if you look at, I was recently reading Roger Daltrey book, and he talks about listening to some of the first recordings of The Who, and been like, I can't stand it. Like, I remember being in the studio at that point in time, and although it was like a huge hit and people loved it, he was still like, yeah, I was a little bit off here. I pushed myself a little too hard. I really didn't discover what my voice was at that point in time. And being someone who is going into the studio and trying to record, it made me feel better. It was like, okay, because if Roger Daltrey feels that way, then I'm okay to feel that way too. And that's one of the reasons why we have this show, is for the person that's thinking about jumping in and starting to do this process, they can hear from a very real person that, in the beginning was not how they sound now. And that's okay.
Absolutely. And I've had, I don't know, at least a couple of people ask, like, would I ever go back and re-record some of those first album songs? It's not a priority. I have new songs. I'm more about moving forward. The existing recordings aren't bad. They're just not the same. They're just not the same. I'll leave it there.
Well, they captured a very specific moment.
Yeah. And a specific.
And we're capturing this moment on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Behind the brand, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, EZ Bluez. Like, I kind of want to say something, Lydia.
Yeah.
We're talking about different themes and like how long you put into your albums. I really wanted to know. I saw you perform live once at the Cellar. Does each live performance have a different theme? Because I know one theme had pandas, another was going to be like a different theme just for like what we're going into.
That's very interesting. You ask that, because I've had that idea for a while. I would say right now, no. Right now, like the live band had, and I say had in the past because we haven't seen each other in like 11 months. Because been like that, yeah. the goal is to just perfect one set and to be really good at this one set of songs. And once we have that, then we can expand and maybe do shows with themes. I think I have to work on writing more of, like, because actually the goal with Semaphora was to have something that was kind of a musical TED Talk in a way, where maybe there would be a slideshow going on behind us, and like we break, like actually explain to the audience. I mean, I say before we play a song, I'll say one sentence about, all right, this is a song about a chimpanzee that learns sign language. All right, well, you hear that sentence and maybe it gets you to pay attention, but then you're left wondering, like, why did she write a song about that? And I do have a reason, and I do think it really says something about what it means to be human, that this chimpanzee learned sign languages. It's a true story. The chimp's name was Washoe, and she lived in Nevada. But to get more in detail with like why I'm writing, like what I'm trying to say in the song, that's been a goal of mine. And I thought like maybe projecting the lyrics on a screen behind us, or like handing out programs that have the lyrics printed in them. So like at church, right? They give you a little program. Sometimes it's got the words so everyone can sing along, and like maybe that's where this goes. So to answer your question, that's definitely an idea I've had, and that might be where this is going in the future.
You told us the chimpanzee's name. What's the chicken's name on your first album in Somatic?
So the chickens are so on the cover, right?
Yeah, on the cover, album cover.
There's a chicken on the cover, and I don't know that chicken's name because I did not take that photo. That's actually a photo I just found on the internet.
Really?
I typed chicken friend into Google.
Chicken friend.
Chicken friend, because I found that because that's exactly what I was looking for, is like someone befriending a chicken was the image I wanted. And I actually found the owner of the photo, and I emailed them and said, can I use this as the image?
Okay,
and she said, absolutely, yes. And in fact, like the girl on the cover is grown up and is in college for like biology and was studying like animal-borne disease. So, which is called zoonotic disease. So the fact that the album is called that,
that's crazy,
was a huge coincidence. Yeah.
Wow.
But if we're talking chicken names, there's a song on that album called Modern Dinosaur.
Okay.
Which is written, it's a dialogue between two chickens. And the chickens' name are Soren and Taro. And Soren is the Western philosophy chicken, and Taro is the Eastern philosophy chicken. Should I keep going?
Oh yeah, no.
Oh yeah, you answered my question.
Yeah. So I wrote that song. There were two things going on in my brain when that song came together. I was reading a book about Zen Buddhism.
Right.
And I had just seen the episode of John Oliver's Last Week Tonight, where he talks about chickens on factory farms. And those two forces came together, and I made it into one thing.
No, and that's really what I love about your style of writing, and I really do respect the heck out of it. Is, you know, you guys are I like to call you guys a musicians band, because musicians absolutely respect the composition, the craftsmanship of the record itself, but you're also an intellectuals band as well, because although yes, some people are like, oh, two chickens having a conversation, it's a much broader conversation, and you're dealing with the roots of Buddhism versus the capitalistic nightmare that is America. Just putting it out there. And you're able to do that, and you're able to put it all together, and it's a cohesive thought. And that's amazing. Like, high five.
Oh, thank you. I just high-fived myself to give you the sound effect.
Nice.
So I'm actually going to segue this into the song that I sent.
Perfect.
For you to play during the show. So, and we talked a little about this already. There's sort of different layers to this. So on the surface, at a show, before we play Modern Dinosaur, I might say like, oh, this is a song about two chickens. And people think, oh, that's kind of funny. Who writes a song about chickens? But there's more to it. There's more to the story. And the song that I have sent to you to play on today's program is called Bajir. And it is based on one of the books in the Animorphs series. Have you ever read the Animorphs?
I have.
I saw the show on Nickelodeon back in the day. I haven't gotten.
Okay. I no lie, the most important science fiction work of the last 30 years, in my opinion, was Animorphs, and people might see that I wrote a song based on the Animorphs and think, oh, she's being ironic, but I'm really not. I'm completely sincere about this. I'm telling this. I'm putting the story forward because it's something that moved me and made me think about what it meant to be human. Because it's a story, real brief Animorph synopsis for all you listeners out there. It's a series of books that, like, I mean, people know it's the kids turn into animals, right? But why do they turn into animals? Well, they're fighting a war against an alien invasion. There's a species of alien parasites that can go into your brain and control you. And these kids turn into animals so they can fight the aliens. And where was I going with that? It's basically, okay. Right. So the song, in book 19, you finally hear from one of the aliens who isn't one of their leaders. She is just one of the rank and file, like, members of this alien society. And she says, like, we were just born this way. This is what we do. You and I are not so different. We're all species that fight for our own survival. You're calling us evil, but you really don't have any moral standing at all. And I thought, like, that stayed with me my entire life since, like, 6th grade or whenever I read that book. And eventually I put it into a song, and that's what Bajir is.
Well, it's incredible because as you explain that, and that statement resounds so true today, you know, with everything that's happening and everyone, you know, are fighting these, what I call belief wars, you know, because everyone's entitled to believe what they want to believe, but no one wants to respect the other person's belief. And that's kind of where we're at as a world right now, not just a country, not just, you know, the city of New Haven, but as a world, we are sitting there, and we've been there for eons upon eons. I mean, wars have been fought and blood has been shed over belief system for forever. But now we're starting to see it so bubble up to the surface that, you know, the simplest of conversation becomes an argument because both people believe the other point of view and are not really starting to look at the similarities between the human beings behind the conversation. And you really highlighted that. And I know you, and I know that you've made that statement on purpose. But you don't beat someone over the head with it, where you have some people are like, this is what's going on and this is the way it needs to be and blah, blah, blah. You're like, hey, here's a fun song about a book that I had read that had an incredible impact on me, but the true message behind it, you really should take it to heart. And that's beautiful. Like, that is absolutely incredible. And thank you for doing that, because it takes a lot of courage. And a lot of people don't have that nowadays because they're so terrified.
Yeah, you say that, but this is the only way I know how to make art. I'm just doing what makes sense to me.
That's awesome.
I'll also say that there's a video that I'm finishing up the edit for it today, and I'm planning to put it online tonight. And you'll see, like, the video, it's kind of silly on the surface. There's some sock puppets. You'll think like, oh, this is just a silly song about aliens. But there's levels to it. So
that's awesome.
Lydia, speaking of levels, what levels and goals do you achieve to meet in 2021?
Well, can I talk about this other project that I'm working on right now?
You just got
Please
about
do.
you got a 4-minute window.
4-minute window. Okay.
4-minute window.
Then you're gonna play my song, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, in general, in 2021, I want to start producing other artists. Now that I've learned more about producing my own music, I want to share that with other artists. And there's a few people that I've talked to that I've started working with. If you know Vange Durst, singer-songwriter, who's been in the region for many, many years, I co-produced her album that just came out in December.
Oh, awesome.
I played on the Cardboard Dream House album that came out last year. I'm working with Mike Brandon of the Mike Brandon Band and Chris Q of Hi-Fi Radio. So there's a lot of projects that I want to do more collaborating with in 2021. I'm also working with Fuse Theater of Connecticut in their production of Midsummer Night's Dream. And they have hired me to write a musical score for their video production and to sing some of the Shakespeare scenes to song.
Wow, that's awesome.
So
that's amazing. I'm smiling right now. Woo!
Well, it's going to go up sometime this summer. We're still working out like the details of how to film it all and how to record everyone because we want to stay distanced, like as few people in a room as possible. But I've written about 10 songs where the words are the text of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. So that's look for that. I'll be announcing that on my own where I announce stuff.
Lydia, one more thing I want you to announce before we play the song. Please plug social media and any ways to contact you, whoever's listening right now.
All right, absolutely. So my website is Semaphorg. This is Semaphora, SEMAPHORA, and my website is SEMAPH.org. And you can find me on Twitter. I write random weird stuff on Twitter at Semaphora Music. You can get on my email mailing list by writing a note to Lydia at Semaphorg. So LYDIA at SEMAPH.org. You can also send fan mail to Semaphora, P.O. Box 320502, Fairfield, Connecticut, 06825. I think that's it. I've got some other social media pages, but they're like joke ones. They're like, I'm kind of like.
Lydia, I hate to cut you off, but we got like 1 minute and we got to play a song.
Go for it.
On a show Behind the Brand with myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made EZ Bluez. Here's Lydia with her song on Behind the Brand. On WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven.
Need some help?
I
can share my audio.
I know he has it. I definitely know he has it. I definitely know he has it.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a crazy time. It's 2020, man, with audio and everything and Wi-Fi. It's crazy. So just give us some time.
Absolutely.
Give us some time.
I can play it over Zoom.
But Lilia, we just have to get off because the other show is about to come on the network. Lilia.
Here it is.
Your only nature given right is darkness and a light that oscillate. You are clueless as Bajir at our arrival, to think you understand the balance you protect. It's a compromise absurd to fill the ranks but thin the herd and give my interests and my word the same respect. I want to see as they did and feel the surfaces between your ears, but every empire faded was apex predator. 10,000 years, you see a story broken into chapters, all advancing to some predetermined end. But you'll find as pages turn, no simple lesson that we learned exists outside what you internal.